Good morning, and thank you for joining us on this very special edition of Dialogue in Diaspora, coming to you from our studio here in North London. My name is Tunde Alabi. On this very special program, we'll be taking a look at the relationship between UK and Nigeria in terms of trade and, well, other issues. But specifically, we're looking at Nigeria's trade relationship with the United Kingdom. And it's no news that over the years, very many people have actually complained about this relationship. And people have actually said because Britain was not doing enough in encouraging and improving its trade relationship with Nigeria, it's giving the room for China to actually take that opportunity to spread itself and establish itself in Nigeria and, of course, across Africa. How true is it that Britain is not doing enough to encourage trade relationship with Nigeria or between Nigeria, among Nigerians in Nigeria and the United Kingdom, or entrepreneurs, companies and industry in the United Kingdom and Nigeria? These are issues we'll be taking a look at on the program today. There's no any other person who is qualified to look at that relationship between Nigeria and the United Kingdom than the UK trade envoy to Nigeria. I'm talking about John Howell, MP and OBE, joining us live in the studio today. John, thank you for joining us on the program today.
Nice to be here.
My pleasure. In my introduction, I did say very many people are of the opinion that Britain, UK is not doing enough to encourage bilateral trade with Nigeria. How true is that?
Well, I think that what you've got to look at is my appointment. I was appointed at the beginning of the year, and this is a real sign that the Prime Minister is, and that the UK as a whole, is very serious about increasing trade with Nigeria. It stands at about £4 billion, $4 billion now. And I'm determined that that will increase by getting companies to focus on doing business in Nigeria and doing business well in Nigeria.
Would you think that your appointment now would by any means increase that cooperation between the UK and Nigeria?
Well, since I've been appointed, I cannot tell you how many companies I've seen who are interested in doing business in Nigeria. These are companies that maybe had a quick look at the market a few years ago, but they want to come back to the market now. And it's really encouraging to see them looking at Nigeria sensibly and seriously, because that's a real focus for the UK. And I want to ensure that we have really good targeted missions over there, taking the companies that are going to do business there for the long term. Not just a quick bit of trade, but are there for the long term, so as to increase the prosperity of Nigeria as well as to increase the prosperity of the UK.
I'm sure while taking on your responsibility now as the UK envoy, trade envoy to Nigeria, you would probably have looked at what were some of the challenges in that were impeding on that relationship, the challenges that were standing against UK-Nigeria trade relationship. What were some of those things that you found out?
Well, I think that the biggest problem that companies had was the difficulty with the Naira, in the attitude of the central bank being able to get foreign exchange for the Naira. But I'm really pleased to see that the central bank has shown that they are going to take a flexible approach to this for the future, because that has transformed the attitude of British companies to doing business in Nigeria. And I think that's so important that you have a proper floating currency that people can react to, that they know that they can get their profits out, although they may want to leave them there to build the businesses for the future. So I think that is a really essential point. And I think the second point goes back to the election of President Buhari. President Buhari came to power to deal with the corruption problem in Nigeria. And we have supported him thoroughly as the UK in this aim, and I think that spells an enormous amount to British companies, because corruption is an evil to both our societies, and the quicker it is stamped out, the better.
So basically, apart from the issue of the forex and the issue of corruptions, what were companies willing to invest in Nigeria? What were they telling you, or what have they told you about issues stopping them from investing wholeheartedly into the Nigerian economy, apart from the issue of corruption and forex?
Well, the Nigerian economy is an enormous potential market. You know, you're going to have a population of 400 million soon, and that is an enormous market for British companies to access. So the companies that I've been speaking to have been really serious about doing business with Nigeria, of getting themselves in order to be able to do that. And I think that is going to see a big increase in trade between our two countries over the coming years. I certainly hope so, because you know my appointment is a really serious indication that the UK wants to do business with Nigeria, that it is committed to Nigeria, and that it is going to take forward this relationship in the future.
China has trillions of dollars of bilateral trade agreement with Nigeria, and UK is just struggling over a couple of billions.
Well, I think that you missed the point in going back to that. What you've got to do is to look at my appointment, is to look at the focus that the UK is giving to trade relations with Nigeria, and to see that as a positive step for the future. It's about getting the markets up and running, of making sure that Nigeria is in as good a position as possible to do business with Britain, as well as Britain being in as good a position to do business with Nigeria. And I think that those two things are very important for the future trade relationships. You know, we don't want just one-off deals here and there. We want an established trade relationship between our two countries.
Very many companies in Nigeria have actually said they find it extremely difficult getting their products to the Nigerian market in the UK. Huge market.
Well, I think this is a question of safety and of quality, and what we're prepared to do is to sit down and work with Nigerian companies in order to make sure that their products can meet the quality and safety standards that are international.
Is the government concerned about quality and safety?
Yes, and these are international standards that apply to all companies. So it's very important that Nigerian companies are aware of this and deal with this, because it's by doing that they will have a bigger share of the world market. Now, we are of course keen for them to get a bigger share of the UK market, you know, the more that we can work with Nigerian companies to help them to overcome these difficulties, the better it will be.
Do you think the current government in Nigeria has a favourable policy in place that would attract investors from the UK?
I think that one of the things that I'm conscious of is how low down in the international scale Nigeria comes as a place to do business. And what I want to do is to help the Nigerian government to push you up the scale, so that you go up as a more attractive place to do business. Because I think that's only where you get the long-term, the long-lasting trade relationships that are going to be the future for our two countries. And I think if we can do that, it will be for the best for both of us.
What would you be looking at the Nigerian government to be doing now in terms of encouraging a genuine bilateral trade agreement with the United Kingdom?
Well, I think one of the things that we are very keen to support is President Buhari's wish to diversify the Nigerian economy. The Nigerian economy has been heavily dependent on oil, and the UK has had a very good relationship with Nigeria with oil, and I hope that continues. But we want to see the economy diversified into many other areas, because that will open up the market to British companies to go in and to do business there. You know, that we're talking about the normal retail businesses along our high streets. Why aren't they in Nigeria doing business there? Why aren't the infrastructure companies doing business in Nigeria? These are the companies that I wish to encourage to go into Nigeria.
I mean, on a soft level, the amount of money coming in from Nigeria into the UK, the housing sector, the education sector, huge amount of money, and people have said almost in a year Nigerians spend almost 300 million pounds sterling on housing and about the same amount of money on education. How much is going to the Nigerian economy from Britain in supporting either education or in supporting infrastructural development or even training?
Well, I think you raise a very good point there, and it's why the British government is putting a lot of money in to helping to develop the education system in Nigeria. It is great that Nigerians see the future as being in London, but I want to turn that round and take London to Nigeria, not Nigerians to London. And I think that will be for the best for the profitability of Nigeria, and it will also actually help in the trade relationships between our two countries.
How do you intend to go about that?
Well, I think that's part of the support that we're giving to President Buhari. It's also part of projects that the Department for International Development here in the UK is helping to fund. For example, it's helping to fund major projects to help children back to school in Nigeria, where they have been problematic in the things that they have dealt with. And I think that's absolutely crucial. I think that project has helped something like 90,000 Nigerian children to get back to school. I think that's a very worthwhile thing to have done for both our countries.
One would imagine that, considering Britain's relationship with Nigeria, I mean, of all the countries in the world, Britain tend to have, should or is suspected to have a stronger relationship with Nigeria. Britain being Nigeria's colonial master. I mean, so there's that cultural link, that normal relationship, and nothing Nigerian will feel to us, Britain, than they feel to us, America. But very many have said, look, we've been let down 1,000,000 times by Britain in so many areas.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. There is a tremendous amount that unites our two countries. There is a tremendous amount that we have in common. We have similar, where we have language in common, we have history in common, we have a judicial system that's in common. We even have a parliamentary system that I think we could say is in common. And I think it's very good to encourage development in those areas. Now, that's precisely what we're doing with some of the aid-funded projects. For example, we're helping with the development of good relations with the police and with the judiciary, for example, in Nigeria, which is going a long way to helping Nigeria to solve some of its own problems. But it's not an imposition from outside. It's working with the Nigerian judiciary and with the Nigerian police to help them solve their own problems, but with British help. And I think that's a fantastic way forward.
Is security a concern for potential investors or companies going to Nigeria? Is it?
Yes, I think it is a concern, and it's one that we're helping to help to solve by providing funding to assist in that area.
I'm still very interested in the issue of security. I mean, do you think Nigeria is safe for investors to get into?
Well, look, I think it's safe enough for me to go there. I shall be going very shortly for my first trip as trade envoy to Nigeria. I shall be going to Abuja, and I'm looking forward to it tremendously. Look, I think Nigeria has problems with security. We are providing the necessary training for Nigerian security staff to be able to carry out their functions and to go on with their job. You know, we've had a lot of experience of dealing with security issues in the UK going back many years, including the Irish problems, and it's very good that we have got this relationship between our two countries that you can piggyback on some of the experience that we've had.
Nigerians in the United Kingdom, they are hardworking, and they're looking to establish real trades and take opportunities of investment in this country. Do you have any piece of advice for Nigerians in the UK who are looking to entrepreneurs who have the resources but are hindered by, well, not being able to access government funds to establish themselves or increase or expand their businesses?
Well, I do have some advice to them. You're absolutely right. Nigerian entrepreneurs are absolutely fantastic. In fact, they're so fantastic, one could sign them up as members of the Conservative Party here in the UK. But leaving that aside for a second, I've met some of these entrepreneurs when they've been over to the UK. I've met some of the diaspora in London, and I've been very impressed with their abilities there. Now, the way in which they can help to take the development of bilateral trade between our two countries forward is by supporting the reforms in Nigeria in order for it to solve some of the problems that it has. And it's by thinking up imaginative ways of dealing with the currency problems, which are now being made a lot easier by the Nigerian central bank. But it's by doing that business, by thinking imaginatively, by getting the grip of the entrepreneurial activities that they really want to, what they really want to see happen. And I'm very happy to help them in doing that.
Is the British High Commission or Embassy in Nigeria doing enough to ensure that Nigerians in Nigeria willing to come to the UK for trade, investment, or anything are being supported?
Well, I think that you've got to look at both the Nigerian High Commission in London and the British High Commission in Abuja. And both of them have a similar aim. And that aim is to increase trade between our two countries. And the focus of their activities has to be in doing that. And there's a lot that the Nigerian High Commission in London can do, and there is a tremendous amount that the British High Commission in Abuja can do. And I have to say that in my relationships certainly with the British High Commission in Abuja, which I've had more contact with, it's been absolutely fantastic. They're really focused on increasing trade, and are doing a tremendous amount to assist British companies to access the market, to be able to do business there, and to establish the sort of long-term relationships that we've been talking about.
How fantastically corrupt do you think Nigeria is?
Well, I don't think that anyone is suddenly off-put by suddenly discovering that Nigeria is corrupt. It is corrupt. There is a lot of corruption there. And corruption is bad for your society, and it's bad for our society as well. And it has to be stopped. And I think that President Buhari, when he was elected to solve the corruption problem, has set about it in a very good and systematic way. Now, it is a major inhibitor to companies doing business in Nigeria. But the fact that there is a president who's been elected to solve this problem and is going about doing it speaks volumes about the way in which Nigeria is changing. And that's to its credit.
The president posted that the last time he came, he said that, look, he wasn't looking for any apology, but Nigeria's money in UK should be returned. Is the UK government ready to repatriate Nigeria's fund in the UK?
That's a very good question, which you'll not be surprised to know that I'm not going to answer for you.
I should think so.
but well, look, what I would say on that, I think it is very good for Nigeria and Britain to be talking. And there are many issues that are going to be on the table, and they should be on the table. And I think the more there is openness in the relationship between our two countries, the better it will be.
If I wanted to just look into the future with Britain and UK and Nigeria in terms of trade relations, what do you see?
I see a very rosy picture for the future. I see the amount of trade between our two countries going up enormously. I'm not going to try to guess a figure for what it will achieve, but I think that it's going to be a substantial achievement. And I think we're going to see very much in the way of two-way trade between our countries over the coming years. And you know, I go back to what I said at the beginning of this, that the seriousness with which we take the Nigerian market is illustrated by my appointment as the Prime Minister's trade envoy to Nigeria. Now, there are very few countries in the world that have a trade envoy appointed by the Prime Minister to deal with them. Nigeria is one of them, and it speaks volumes about how seriously Britain takes trade with Nigeria.
Fantastic. John Howell MP, thank you for being part of the program today, and we wish you the best in this new assignment of yours. We do hope that Nigeria will benefit greatly, and Britain also benefiting greatly from the enormous resources Nigeria has got.
Thank you.
All right, this is how far I can go with John on the program for this morning. Thank you for being part of the program. I still have another guest joining us in the studio. Don't go away.
On Ben TV, I've actually been on the channel, yeah.
Ben TV!